Only 2 days before Jupiter enters Gemini, he rules the full moon in Sagittarius on Thursday, May 23rd. Time to examine our beliefs, release those that no longer serve us, and get ready for fresh new beginnings represented by Jupiter changing signs. Let's take a closer look and talk about your horoscopes. My name is Anastasia. I'm a traditional Western astrologer specializing in natal, relationship, and predictive readings. If you like my content and enjoy my work, please take a second of your time to leave a like or a comment, subscribe, and press the notification bell. It doesn't take much, but it really supports me and helps my channel grow. You also have the option of saying thank you by buying me a coffee or tea. Thank you to everyone who has taken advantage of that option. Some of you I know have done it a couple of times, so I appreciate you guys as well. Even if you're just sending happy thoughts, showing my channel to other people, all of this helps me feel like I'm doing this and, getting sort of good results. Of course, the goal is to help you guys, but it also helps for me to reach the larger audience. So before we dive in, as always, if you want to book a reading, you have important questions, you can find me on my website, anastasiadoesastrology.com. There are relationship readings, natal chart readings that look at your potential, describe what your challenges are, what your strengths are, what your karmic purpose is. There are predictive readings, relationship readings, shorter readings. Check out my website for that. On my website, you can also find a variety of creations like candles and oils that I make. For example, Jupiter in Taurus is my May creation. It is decorated with citron stone and it is yellow because yellow is one of the colors of Jupiter. It smells like banana nut bread. The smell is right here. It really feels like there's potentially a banana nut bread next to me. And this one captures Jupiter in the final days of Taurus, the sign that Jupiter in Taurus is not necessarily like the sign of rulership, but it's in the candle that I made, it conjoins the exalted moon. So it's supported by the moon and it is co-present with Venus in rulership. It really has the power to manifest Taurian values like abundance, stability, love, connection, financial security, a lot of things. So it's great for that. It's also lovely for anyone born with their Jupiter in Virgo, Gemini, or Capricorn, which are the signs of fall and detriment. If your Jupiter is placed in the dark house, 6th, 8th, or 12th, if it's opposite or square Saturn, this is the candle for you. And highly, highly recommend my Moon in Cancer. This is the fan favorite and it's been selling out pretty fast. This one is just really good for your emotional well-being and balance and peace, and it's decorated with silver foil, so it's not only helpful, it smells like moonflower nectar, but it also smells lovely and it looks lovely. So can't lose. Thank you for listening. Let's take a look at the full moon. So the full moon occurs on Thursday, May 23rd at 9:52 a.m. Eastern. You'd have to adjust it for your time zone. If you're in Europe, it might be like really in the middle of the night. No, it will be in the middle of the night, I guess, if you are in California or in Hawaii. In Europe, it's still going to be May 23rd, but it's going to be later. I'm not super great with conversion. I know that if you're like in the middle of Russia, it might be in the evening of May 23rd. And it occurs at 2 degrees 54 minutes Sagittarius, which means that you will feel it the strongest if you have planets, angles, like your ascendant, descendant, between 0 and 6 degrees of mutable signs, and those are Sagittarius, Gemini, Virgo, and Pisces. So pay especially close attention to it. And of course, there's multiple other timing techniques, like if it's your moon ruled perfection year, you're naturally more attuned with the moon, but that is a little bit more specific. So here we're completing the cycle started on December 12th, 2023, when we had the new moon in Sagittarius, and it might be worth looking back to see what kind of thoughts you were thinking, encounters you had, projects you started. Sagittarius is the sign of beliefs. It's the sign of ideals, aspirations. Sagittarius always needs to have a goal, a purpose, a mission. So let's say if in December you started thinking about becoming a yoga teacher, It might be around now when you solidify those plans and maybe pay for yoga teacher training or actually go travel and start your course. So it's like, it's education related, it's travel related, it's guiding principles, passions. So anything around your aspirations could be coming full circle right now. In general, the full moon is an opposition between the sun and moon, so it always has some tense energy, right? We just started Gemini season. Gemini is all about facts. It's about data. It's about breaking things apart, analyzing, seeing the multitude of perspectives. And so when we are getting the full moon, it's an invitation to look at the other side, to integrate a different part, right? Like, trust that there is more to life than facts, more to things than data, more sort of, like, bring your beliefs, bring your passions into the mix. Like, you don't always have to have everything figured out in order to get things moving, get things going, right? It's like, what's in your heart, I think the moon in Sagittarius is asking you. It sextiles Pluto. So there's very much the energy of transformation, the energy of rebirth that this full moon has. Just a second, I'm gonna pull it up so it's more in front of me. Yeah, the sextile to Pluto is quite lovely. I think the sextile to Pluto suggests that there is an element of transformation, death, rebirth, all the things that I have mentioned. Just a minute. You may notice that around this time you get kind of intuitive downloads. You're maybe feeling more connected to the universe. You're maybe getting support of people in power, right? There might be some kind of like culmination recognition that is connected to you gathering resources, to you reaching some type of point of like change. But I quite like this because it's a sextile to Pluto versus like a square to Pluto. So it feels more harmonious, it feels more aligned, and it's also a great time to connect with beyond, right? Like if you're someone who is a psychic, which some of you maybe are, and you work with the dead, this could be the time that you get some kind of important download, right? Or you connect with mysterious, the hidden. It's a great time to study astrology. It's a great time to study yoga. It's a great time to like illuminate something in your life. And the full moon can be quite illuminating. It literally can be the time when you realize something, right? Like perhaps Gemini season invited you to think about like the facts, come up with a plan, examine the multitude of possibilities. But around the full moon, you get back to the roots, you get back to your core, to your heart, and you connect with your heart versus being so kind of grounded in your mind or so attached to your mind. So full moons represent culmination. So on some levels, you're realizing important things, you're potentially releasing important things, releasing outdated things, examining beliefs that are holding you back, ideals that are maybe outdated, with the fact that the ruler is Jupiter in the final degree of Taurus. There's also a major shift happening, right? Like for a year, we've been in the Jupiter and Taurus land. And while Jupiter and Taurus is lovely for material abundance and for focus on money, it's funny, but like I've been so kind of focused on like tangible growth for my business and financial and sort of competing with myself and trying to do better. But I think with Jupiter going into Gemini, we are getting ready to pivot. We're getting ready to adjust. We're getting ready to change, right? Like we are shifting away from like stowing away, gathering our treasures to perhaps using them. Jupiter and Gemini will be more interested in technology, in the mind, and learning and exploring possibilities. So it's like, how can you get ready for that, right? Like what kind of beliefs you've been holding on to for the last year that maybe do not serve you anymore, and maybe it's the time to release them. So I am quite, excited about it. It's a great time. The full moon is always a great time to meditate. It's a great time to cleanse, to literally clear your space, to journal about things, to do yoga, to do spiritual things, like maybe, breathe deeply, do yoga, do a sound bath, do Reiki, stuff like that could be lovely. And let's take a look at the 12 rising signs. I recommend listening for your rising sign because that tends to be the most accurate, but you're welcome to listen for your sun or for your moon if you feel like those connect with you better. And as always, if you want a detailed reading, if you want me to look at your entire chart, see how this affects you, see how other transits coming up might affect you, book a reading on my website, anastasiaastrology.com. Starting, as always, with Aries rising, there's a full moon in your 9th house. It's completing the chapter started in December 2023 when we had the new moon in your 9th house. And the full moon in the 9th represents changes around growth, right? 9th house is the place of growth, both your spiritual growth. So if you've been exploring some kind of philosophical school of thoughts, you've been learning about Buddhism, you've been learning about astrology, this could be an important period in which you feel like you're graduating on some level, right? You are feeling perhaps able to apply the information you've been gathering to teach other people, to help other people. Very literal graduation could be represented by the full moon in the 9th, some kind of important exam that you're taking. Going from being a student to a teacher, from a teacher to a student, some kind of important transitions in that realm are possible. 9th house also represents publishing, so writing, publishing your work is a possibility. And then it's also the place of travel in a literal sense and travel in the realm of the mind. So some kind of important developments around travel, like getting visas, buying tickets, actually going to a place. Sort of 9th house has always been the place of the higher mind, the house of the god, the place where we journey onwards. We take long sort of trips towards something. So completion of those trips, or even, on some level, if you've been thinking about studying, if you've been thinking about teaching, if you've been thinking of like taking an exam, this could be the time that solidifies in your life. And what's interesting is the ruler being Jupiter in the 2nd house, about to go into the 3rd house. You are going through a shift of, like, the last year, maybe there was a lot of focus on material stability, on creating security in your life. And now that hopefully you did get some security, right? There's been a lot of action in Taurus in the last month. Let me know if it had brought you abundance, if it had brought you more financial stability. But the change that's going is the focus of Jupiter shifts from financial stability to communication, to knowledge, to networking, to connecting with other people, to starting a business, to writing. So you are, after a year of rethinking what's valuable to you, what's worth investing into, you're getting ready to switch gears. You're getting ready to apply the knowledge, right? And that's why I think with Jupiter about to enter the 3rd house, you need to complete something in your head, in real life, maybe finish some legal matters. 9th house also rules legal matters, maybe get visas, maybe take exams, so that you can better take action, right? So you have everything needed for you to take action. Let me know how this resonates, and if you're curious to know more, book a reading on my website, anastasiaastrology.com. We can talk about the full moon and many other things that you're interested to know more about. Moving on to Taurus rising, you're getting the full moon in the 8th house, and the ruler is Jupiter in the 1st, about to enter your 2nd house. So with the full moon in the 8th, and Jupiter about to shift from the 1st into the 2nd. This is interesting, right? Because Jupiter has been in your 1st house. A lot of focus has been on your body, on your identity, on your physicality, on your personality. And now it's going into the 2nd house, and a lot of your focus will be on your resources. You're maybe exploring new ways of building stability in your life. With Jupiter in the 2nd house, you're maybe gonna be exploring writing projects, communication projects, journaling, not a career choice. Maybe you're a professional journalist, a journalist, but like something like career change, or change that involves blogging, writing, speaking, sales, maybe multiple career possibilities. I have a job and I have a business, or I have a job and I have like an Etsy account, right? Like you could be very much directing yourself towards creating financial stability and independence. And the full moon in the 8th house, to me, suggests that you're looking at your debts, literal debts. So if you have something like a credit card bill you've been trying to pay off, perhaps this is your opportunity to close that debt, to pay it off, so that as you venture on a new path of building financial stability, you can have more freedom, right? The full moon in the 8th is asking you what ties you have to other people and what ties you have financially, what is restricting you financially that you can free yourself from, right? So debts is a very obvious one. Completing, if you've been waiting for an inheritance, receiving an inheritance, if you've been applying for a loan, getting a loan. But it's also, 8th house is not just money. 8th house is quite complicated that way because it represents agreements you have with other people. For example, you know, as a parent, right? Like you have an unspoken agreement to take care of your child. As a friend, you maybe have an agreement to be there for your friend through thick and thin. But at around this time, you may be realizing that some of those agreements, especially those that are not like crucial family agreements, are maybe unhealthy. Maybe they're not supportive of you, right? Like maybe there are some relationships that are dragging you down, holding you back. And so the opportunities might be present around this time to kind of place better boundaries, to cut ties with things, and even changes to your shared resources, changes to your partner's money are possible, because it's all about how you relate with other people. And so sometimes it's not you initiating the change, it's maybe the fact that your partner is making more money, right? Or that your partner is getting an inheritance and you get an element of stability and freedom coming from them. But I think very much like how your ties to other people control your personal resources, your goals for the future, and what can be changed there. Let me know how this resonates. And as always, if you want to know more, book a reading on my website, anastasia.astrology.com. We can look at your entire chart, talk about transits, talk about the energies to come and what might be in store for you. If you are a Gemini rising, there's a full moon in your 7th house, and the ruler is Jupiter in the 12th, about to enter the 1st house. I see this, if I had to give you like a tagline, as you're getting ready to become more visible, as you're getting ready to come out of hiding and claim what's yours, it's the time to revisit your agreements, contracts, and relationships. This is the summary, right? Jupiter has been in your 12th house for a year. You may have dealt with immigration matters. You may have felt a little bit more isolated. You maybe dealt with some sort of mental health blocks, things that are outside of your control. But in the process, you have learned a lot. You have learned to be more self-reliant. You have gotten in touch with your spirituality. You have tapped into a hidden resources. And so Jupiter is going to leave that place of sort of subterranean in-between land, and it's going to go into your 1st house, which is all about, okay, now I'm going to be a teacher, now I'm going to be a mentor, now I'm going to be a doula, now I'm going to be an influencer, right? And so the full moon in the 7th house is very much inviting you to look at relationships you have in your life. Let's say there's a romantic relationship that is maybe outdated, or it's stopping you from reaching your fullest potential. So the full moon can give you a chance to walk away from that relationship. Alternatively, if you're getting ready to commit to a partner, this is also quite important for your personal development, right? Like as you commit and maybe you need to move or you need to start a partnership with them, that also will change how you see yourself, how you present yourself. So very much, I think, like changes in relationships that are prompted either by a need to be more serious with the relationship or a need to be more self-contained, right? Because Jupiter about to enter your 1st house is a very big transition. I think it's making you more aware of what you want. It's making you more clear and more directional on some level. And so partnerships, relationships, agreements of all sorts. It could be a work relationship. It could be a contract you have with your realtor, for example. Like those relationships will need to change, and change in a very significant ways, I think. Let me know how this resonates, and if you're curious to know more, book a reading on my website, anastasiadoesastrology.com. Now, if you are a lovely Cancer rising, there's a full moon in your 6th house, with ruler being Jupiter in the 11th, about to enter the 12th house. So something is changing in your work life, around your health, around your diet, and around topics of service to other people. With Jupiter has been in your 11th house for about a year. You may have been exploring new dreams. You may be have been thinking about reaching out more people. Your social life could have been busier. You maybe have made a lot of new friends or new acquaintances. And now Jupiter is actually about to shift into your 12th house, which is a very different energy. Jupiter in the 12th house is a lot more private. It's a lot more introspective. It's a lot more interested in learning about astrology, in resting on some level, right? It's like a closing of the cycle. You're closing a big cycle of growth, and you're getting ready. It's like winter time. You're gathering resources. And so the full moon in the 6th house, I think, is asking you what needs to change in your work life, what needs to change around you taking care of other people. Maybe you have a spouse who needs your attention because they're sick, or you have a child that you've been taking care of. And so as your focus shifts to more spiritual passions, to resting, to like traveling, Jupiter in the 12th house can also represent location changing. You are needing to take care of sort of like the nitty gritty. You're needing to open up space in your everyday life. You're needing to clear space for maybe more rest. You're needing to make doctor's appointments, to transform your work engagement, right? For some, it might be quitting their job. For others, it might be shifting to work from home, or talking to a boss about relocating. So you're very much like focused on cleaning your, I think, your physical space, but also very much like your mental health, mental space. So full moon in the 6th house can represent shifting dynamics and beliefs around how much you owe to other people, workload, right? Like how much do you think you have to work? So very interesting transformations, I think, are coming up here. And take a look back at December 2023 to see what kind of topics were introduced into your life in terms of work, health, service, and what might be completing. Some other possibilities, you may be closing a work project, you may be getting over a health issue, maybe somebody in your life is getting over a health issue, and so there's changes in your everyday life and around how much you have to give to other people. If you want to know more, book a reading on my website, anastasiadoesastrology.com. If you are a Leo rising, there's a full moon in your 5th house. The ruler is Jupiter in the 10th, about to enter your 11th house. So the full moon in the 5th house represents changes, completion, transformations around pleasure, around children, and romance. Can you hear birds sing? This is pleasant. So with the ruler being Jupiter in the 10th, about to enter your 11th, I think you're looking at this transformation of like focus that maybe was very strong for the last year on your job to more of a focus on like passion projects, connecting with community, connecting with other people, reaching out groups of people via writing, via social media, expanding your network, right? And so the full moon in the 5th house is asking, are there any creative projects that you need to complete? Is there, maybe you've been working on a pottery project that is like sort of hanging above your head or in the background in your mind, and you're thinking of completing that. It's also looking at your romantic relationships, and I think is asking you, are they pleasurable? Are you having joy in them, or have they been too stressful for too long, too frustrating? So there might be, with the full moon in the 5th house, there might be an invitation to rethink romantic relationships, either because you're recommitting to them or because you're releasing them if they're not joyful. There might be also an important shift going on in terms of what you find enjoyable. And with Jupiter about to go into your 11th house, you know, the enjoyable thing might become about being more public, about building a community, about building a following and network. It's like a very interesting period of time right now in which you're getting a lot of opportunities, I think, to grow, to connect with other people. So as you like start to ramp up and start moving towards like larger following, larger network, new dreams, you are very much needing to examine what pleasure is, what joy is, review any relationships, and also address matters related to children and parenthood. And those two could be connected, right? Like your dreams and your involvement with the community could be very much connected to you becoming a parent. So how do those two tie together, and what do you need to work on? What do you need to change to bring more balance into your life? Let me know how this resonates, and if you're curious to know more, book a reading on my website, anastasiadoesastrology.com. If you are a Virgo rising, there's a full moon in the 4th house of home, family, security. The ruler is Jupiter in the 9th. It's about to enter the 10th. So Jupiter has been in your 9th house for a year. You have been growing. You have been expanding through education, through travel, through writing, through publishing, through law. Maybe you've been dealing with legal matters. Maybe you've been getting visas, places. And now it's about to enter your 10th house, which is suggesting that you're taking everything you've gathered, all the knowledge, all the work that you've been doing over the last year, and you're taking that into the realm of career. So Jupiter in the 10th will be very much encouraging you to grow your work life, to do sort of more professional things, to connect with more people, to teach, to inspire other people. And the full moon in the 4th house is asking you to create more balance in your life as you're about to enter this new arena professionally, potentially, right? And it's asking you to make changes to your home, to your family, to your place of living. So let's say you're planning a new professional chapter, right? Like, is everything in your home kind of organized? Do your family members have like clear instructions on what to do, right? Like, does your husband know what your children eat if he's going to be the one like setting them, getting them ready for school? If there are any kind of renovation projects, any home DIY projects that need to be finished, the full moon is saying like, okay, you can't have a successful professional life and be calm and happy if your home life is out of order. So it's very much an invitation to tie the loose ends and get everything kind of neat and tidy and clear, and like handle any like tensions in the home, you know, put up better boundaries, better structures, organize, clean your home, sort of like create a happy nest for yourself as you're about to venture and into a larger professional space. Let me know how this resonates. Do you feel like this is something you're feeling already, or maybe not yet? And if you want to know more, book a reading on my website, anastasiadoesastrology.com. If you are the beautiful Libra rising, there's a full moon in your 3rd house, and the ruler is Jupiter in the 8th, about to enter your 9th house. So it's important to talk about Jupiter shifting sign, because Jupiter is the ruler because Jupiter is the ruler of this full moon. And so Jupiter going from the 8th into the 9th is an interesting transition, because we're moving away from the place of like collaboration, handling financial matters, paying off debts, a little bit more private space in which maybe you've dealt with some questions of healing, some questions of like reliance, learning to rely on other people, facing some shadows, into the realm of visibility, into the realm of knowledge and learning and teaching and growing, right? Jupiter in the 9th house will introduce a multitude of opportunities to travel, to write, to publish, to study, to teach. And so you're kind of moving towards like bigger ideas, new beginnings, new interests. It's not all going to be super easy, because Jupiter will have to square with Saturn, and your existing workloads, your responsibilities you have to your children, to your family members, to your loved ones will potentially limit the desire to grow a little bit, or will just encourage you to deal with real life situations, real life circumstances. And so I think the full moon in the third house is all about your everyday life. It's about your structure, it's about your environment, it's about your flow through your day, it's about the way you communicate. So the full moon in the third can touch on a lot of different things, but I think it's very much like if we're looking at Jupiter going into the house of the high mind, big journeys, big questions, big sort of writing novel type things. The full moon in the third is looking at like smaller things. It's the small mind. It's your to-do list. It's your space. It's your environment. It's your, even your mind and the thoughts you're thinking. So with the full moon in the third house, you will be encouraged to, I think, examine your everyday life and maybe clear space, right? It could be literal, like, okay, you need to clear your space. You need to create a better flow in your apartment so that you have a separate like office where you can do the teaching work, right, without being disturbed. It could be about having to do some kind of literal like submit paperwork, apply for things, pass exams, get the technology you need, finishing writing projects, taking exams is quite likely, but very much like what in your immediate environment needs to be organized and streamlined, as well as because we're talking about like Sagittarius and Sagittarius rules beliefs. I think there's also an invitation to examine your beliefs and your guiding principles and maybe start saying positive affirmations or start thinking happier thoughts and just like look at what kind of things you tell yourself that are maybe restrictive, that are maybe not supportive, right? It's almost like, well, you're starting a business, right? But you're having to address the thoughts that businesses fail, or it's going to be really hard, it's going to be like exhausting. So like trying to clear not only physical space, but also mental space, I think is quite important here. Let me know how this resonates, and if you're curious to know more, book a reading on my website, anastasiadoesastrology.com. If you are the lovely Scorpio rising, there's a full moon in your second house, which represents changes, completion, transformation around resources, around money, and values. And the ruler is Jupiter in the seventh, so there's a lot of focus, or has been a lot of focus, on relationships and partnerships. And Jupiter is about to go into your eighth house, which suggests that you're going into the place of partnering up with other people, maybe relying on other people a little bit more, maybe joining forces with other people. It could be in a marriage as you are trying to have a child, or it could be in business as you're signing contracts and welcoming a new member into your medical practice, for example, or a new business partner, right? So the full moon in the second house is suggesting a need to, first of all, connect with what is valuable to you and make sure you're coming into the relationship from a place of clarity in terms of, I know who I am, I know what I want. There can also be some financial changes you need to make, like pay out your debts so that you can, get married without having any debts, or start a business partnership without having to worry about your personal sort of issues. Needing to become more clear, needing to become more structured financially, maybe coming up with some kind of new beliefs, new ideals, new guiding principles around money. Releasing things that do not serve you, some kind of like self-limiting beliefs about abundance, about success, and trying to replace them with more hopeful, especially I think as Jupiter is going into your eighth house. It is very much opening you up and letting you know that there is support, that there is, that other people's resources will likely to be available to you. It's not all without like problems. There's going to be Jupiter square Saturn 3 times, so you'll have to deal with maybe some motivation, some challenges around parenthood, some challenges around inspiration, but it's still, I think, like in order to create abundance, you have to believe that it's possible. So the full moon in the second house is inviting you to both believe and make tangible changes, like focus on actually taking small steps to create that abundance in your life, right? Let me know how this resonates, and if you're curious to know more, book a reading on my website, anastasiadoesastrology.com. If you are a Sagittarius rising, this is major. There's a full moon in your first house. Changes around your look, changes around your body, changes around your goals, changes around your work on many levels. First house is everything that you define yourself as. When you answer a question of who are you, right? Do you say, I'm a teacher, I'm a mother, I'm a daughter, I'm a wife, you know? So the full moon in the first house could be very much connected to changes around work and around relationships, especially because Jupiter rules this full moon and is currently in your sixth house. So, you know, it could be, take a look back at December 2023, we had a new moon in Sagittarius, and take a look at what was happening around your work life, around your health, around your goals and things like that. But I think with Jupiter being in the sixth house ruling this full moon, something is transforming around your work life for sure, right? Like the sixth house, Jupiter conjoined Uranus. Maybe you're choosing to have more freedom professionally. Maybe you're choosing to work from home. Maybe you're choosing to let go of one of the jobs that you have if you have multiple ones. Maybe you're finishing some kind of project so that you have more space. But what's interesting is with Jupiter going from the sixth into the seventh, I could very much see your focus shifting, and so your life is changing in that regard. If your focus is shifting from work and service to other people to relationships and business partnerships. So if we're talking about work, right? Maybe you're choosing to start a business instead of working for somebody else. If we're talking about relationships, maybe you're going from like living in a city that, you know, was like important for your job, and maybe you're moving to be closer with your partner, and so the personal change can be tied to that. But very much, I think very much your interests are changing from like working really hard or being kind of focused on the work to, and work could be anything. If you don't have like a traditional job, maybe it's about taking care of your child, right? But on some level, you're kind of moving away from very much like hard work to relationships, to business partnerships, to new contracts with people. And so as you, let's say, if it's a relationship and you're entering a dating world, the full moon in the first house could represent a resolve you have to work out, to take better care of your body and your look, changing your style as you're maybe getting married or becoming pregnant, moving, right? Changing where you live, changing how you go about your day because you're moving to live with your significant other. So a lot of possibilities. Let me know if these resonate and if you feel like maybe this is manifesting somehow differently in your life. I'm curious to know. And if you want to know more, as always, book a reading on my website, anastasiadoesastrology.com. If you are the beautiful Capricorn rising, there's a full moon in your 12th house. The ruler is Jupiter in the 5th, about to enter your 6th house. So the full moon in the 12th completes the chapter started in December 2023 and brings attention to your mental health, to your self-defeating beliefs, to your negative sort of thoughts and patterns, to your fears, to your anxiety, right? Like, are you working through it? Are you feeling the feelings, or are you blocking them away, pushing them aside? So a lot of kind of like inner transformations, inner realizations. The full moon in the 12th house could also be a turning point in terms of your passions, right? It could be the time where you are acknowledging that, hey, I actually love astrology so much, I'm going to become an astrologer. Or like, I'm going to take my experience of pain and anxiety and vulnerability, and I will help other people deal with their pain, anxiety, and vulnerability. The ruler is Jupiter in the 5th house. It has been in your 5th house for a year, encouraging more pleasure, encouraging you to follow your dreams a little bit more, to become a parent, to start creating creative projects, to start new relationships, to heal relationships. And it's about to enter the 6th house. So you're going through a shift, right? You're moving away from exploring what pleasure is to actually committing to something. Jupiter in the 6th house for the next year will suggest that you're working more, that you're doing work that serves other people, that you're kind of like transforming and changing and committing to something. So I think the full moon in the 12th house could encourage you to rest a little bit, to recuperate, to focus on what's truly important, to be more honest with yourself. It's literally shining light on your hidden desires and your hidden destructive tendencies. So it's very much about either releasing what doesn't serve you or bringing what you truly want to be doing into the spotlight and sort of focusing on that and figuring out what's worth committing to for the next year. Please let me know how this resonates, and if you're curious to know more, book a reading on my website, anastasiadoesastrology.com. Next, if you are an Aquarius rising, there's a full moon in your 11th house. The ruler is Jupiter in the 4th, about to enter your 5th house. As the planet of growth completes a year in your 4th house of home, family, and living situation, and you are wrapping up some matters surrounding your home, surrounding your familial relationships, you are shifting your focus towards pleasure, towards joy, romance, and parenthood. And that is Jupiter entering Gemini for a full year. And as you are rediscovering what pleasure is and what makes you truly happy, and you're focusing on your true desires, you are needing to release, transform, change something in the house of community, your social life, your social relationships, friendships, hopes, and dreams. So let's say if you are becoming a parent, right? Or you're thinking about like becoming a parent, or even like starting some kind of project, something that brings you joy. 5th house is joy, and joy is different for different people. But maybe you need to, let go of some social engagements. Maybe you need to let go of some friendships that are, like, let's say you have people in your life or friends in your life that are jealous of you, that are not supportive of your goals. So there might be an invitation to rethink those dynamics, to maybe literally like open up space on your schedule for hobbies, for interests, for things that you find fun. Maybe completing group projects, completing sort of, writing project, the podcast you've been involved in, or any kind of other project. Your dreams might be changing. So the full moon in Sagittarius can also be the time in which you are realizing that some of your old pursuits no longer feel exciting. And so like kind of inner revision of friendships, of people in your life. Are they supportive? Are they not? How can you build better friendships versus how can you release some friendships? And yeah, I think trying to create better balance between your outside life and your aspirations and your inside sort of personal goals. Let me know how this resonates. And if you want to know more, book a reading on my website, anastasiadoesastrology.com. Now, if you are the lovely Pisces rising, there's a full moon in your 10th house of career, status, and reputation, representing changes, completion, transformation of the cycle that got started in December 2023 when we had the new moon in your 12th house. The ruler is Jupiter in the 3rd. It's about to enter 4th. And so there's a shift going on some level from maybe Jupiter in the 3rd being like a busier life, a lot of learning, a lot of connecting, a lot of meeting new people, networking, to being a little bit more home, family oriented, a little bit more comfort oriented, right? So as you go through this shift, your professional life reflects it. So if you are completing, maybe you've been like learning on the job, maybe you've been sort of busy kind of meeting a lot of people, networking, right? Maybe you're now starting to feel a little bit more at ease because you have taken some exams or you have learned what's necessary and you can like breathe a sigh of relief, right? I'm like, I need to take a breath for a second. But maybe you're reaching a different kind of place at your work where you're feeling a little bit more relaxed. Maybe you're starting to work from home because Jupiter is going from the 3rd into the 4th. Maybe you're getting a job, right? Maybe you've been looking for work for a while and you've been sort of hustling and moving around and trying to figure things out. And maybe now you're finally getting that job. Changes in work that involve maybe a relocation, maybe that encourage you to move, opportunities to move, that also affect your work life, that maybe involve starting a family, connecting with family, moving closer to family, right? Like on some level, you're choosing either to expand your home, to move, you're choosing to start a family. And so your professional life is very much reflecting that. Let me know how this resonates, what is happening in your professional life. And if you're curious to know more, book a reading on my website, anastasiadoesastrology.com. I hope you enjoyed this video. It's nice to talk about something besides Taurus for a change, because I feel like May has all been like Taurus, 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 Taurus. I hope you're having a great month, and I hope you enjoyed this full moon. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.